What is escapism? I feel like everybody's grandmother already knows the answer. In a nutshell, it is what your common sense would tell you. Here comes pain, or I already have pain, so I need to escape it. There's a deep-seated commitment that derives from the structure of our nervous system itself that predisposes us to be escapists. We're built to start out in life as escapists, and we're built as individuals to develop our skills at escaping, and we're built as cultures and families and tribes and civilizations and societies to support and allow for escapism across the board. But then each individual, each family, each tribe, each culture, each civilization will somewhat arbitrarily determine that there are limits to what you can do, the means that you can use to escape. So you can't shoot up heroin and be acceptable, but you can smoke cigarettes. And actually you could, decades ago you could smoke cigarettes everywhere, and now not so much. You can escape using food, but not if you become morbidly obese. You can use sex to escape, but not if you're hurting other people. You can daydream all day, but if you don't hold a job, we're going to judge you negatively. So escapism is endorsed, but up until a point. And those points are rather arbitrary. They're decided locally. There's also a significant subpopulation that actually believes they don't do any escaping, and they're full of shit. So I'm holier than you if I drink and you use needles to shoot up heroin or meth. You're disgusting, I'm acceptable. If you're a shit-faced drunk on a daily basis who gets into multiple car accidents and drives while drunk, I don't do that, so I'm better than you. I used to drink, and now I no longer drink, but I overeat and I overexercise, and I am steeped in religiosity to escape, so I'm better than you, and so on and so forth. So we play this game that helps us save face by minimizing our own escapism while pathologizing others. But this is where the idea of the stigma about it all kind of makes no sense, because except for the very few that have found a way to surmount this escapist commitment drive and surmount the paradox of trying to escape escapism when escapism itself, or the form of escapism that we've been using, is causing us pain, and we apply the escapist commitment then to that escapist derived pain. We're trapped in that paradox. We're still escapists. So this is really what I speak about this at great length in the book. This is really the only way to surmount the paradox. Is first we have to recognize it, which means we all have to acknowledge we're escapists, not just addicts. Addicts have a certain form of escapism that they've used that has a certain way of causing self-harm and harm to the rest of the world. But that's the only distinction. So are we talking about the difference between levels of harmful escapism versus, innocent or not so harmful escapism? Those who have surmounted the paradox and have somehow managed to get out of the escapist way of life all have something in common, which is a more transcendent commitment, a priority that allows pain to exist without having to automatically escape it. So there's the light version of escapism, and often those are folks who think they're standing on some moral high ground, until in fact they fall from there and end up in the escapist cesspool with the rest of the hardcore escapists. We all theoretically have some potential to escape being escapists. We have some possibility, we have the resources if we could mobilize them and see the need to mobilize them in a certain way to end our career as escapists and evolve into something else. And I don't have a good word for that. Non-escapist is kind of unsatisfying. So I'm still in search of a word. And I invite everybody who comes across this concept to offer up their version if they can think of one. I'd certainly be willing to give you credit for it. I talk about acceptors, people that accept pain, but it's still kind of clunky as a term. So escapism is that commitment. How do you know if you're an escapist? Well, you definitely are. The only question is what kind. And how do I stop? It's difficult, but it is doable. And many people have accomplished it without even realizing that that's what they've accomplished. That's very interesting. So they stumble upon some pursuit that kind of turns them on, some sort of spiritual enrichment, let's say, and they're liking it, they're loving it, they're engaged in it. And somewhere in the middle of their committing that way, escapism leaves their body, escapism leaves their mind, escapism leaves their life. And even if it doesn't leave their life completely, it gets downgraded as a priority in a powerful and permanent sort of way. So it can be done. There's real hope for this, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I've helped people get there. So it is available. Is everybody built to have it happen in the course of their lifetime? Maybe not. I can't draw hard and fast conclusions about that question at this point. It's an important question. I do know that some people have surprised me, that they didn't seem to have the goods, they didn't seem to have the right stuff, and they got there anyway. So I don't want to rule anybody out up front. Part of the reason I'm gearing this work to people who are already in recovery is because the person early on in the process of getting sober is still all wrapped up in what I refer to as their pain economy. So they're inveterate and committed escapists trying to decide where the greater pain is. And so they're not really up for hearing this yet. They have to sort of crawl and kick and scream their way into a certain level of willpower-based white-knuckled sobriety, at which point they will ask themselves the question, there's got to be more to life than this. And that's the beginning of the searcher reawakening, to try to find out if there is a path they could walk to the profound, to the transcendent, to the purpose-driven. Then they have ears to hear what I'm talking about, because they're listening as somebody who could potentially be more than willing to drop their escapist commitment, or, like I said, seriously downgrade it. So this is not for everyone, but I hold out the hope of the theoretical potential, at least, for everyone, ultimately. And that's very important, to have that kind of hope about the possibility. Very, very important.